Alrighty guys, here we are on the May 8th submitted assignment. This was a little bit different than our past submitted assignments. We had a couple of multiple choice questions. The questions, believe it or not, actually these first three are off a practice keystone exam. So, in case you were wondering, yes, they do look a little different. They're certainly not quite like the questions on the back. Questions on the back have more so been like what we were doing in class. A little bit different, but they're actually, if you did well with them, that's a good sign because they're keystone-like questions. So, what I mean by that is you need a better understanding of what's going on. So, we look at question 1 here, and it says the range of the weights. So, immediately you see range, and you're thinking, okay, well, I know what that is. That's the maximum minus the minimum. So the range of weights in pounds of all goats on a farm is 180. Which statement about the weights of the goat is most likely true? So I got to choose either A, B, C, or D. Which one is most likely true? Does that mean that the heaviest goat on the farm weighs 180 pounds? No. The only way that would be true is if there are goats on the farm that weigh 0 pounds, and that doesn't make sense. Okay, so that would only be true if we were told that the maximum was 180. All right, exactly 50% of the goats weigh less than 90 pounds. Well, quite honestly, that's completely irrelevant. I see where it's coming from. And I know how it can trick people because you think, well, 90 is half of 180, so 50% weigh less than 90. But you have no idea what the number 90 is. It doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't tell us 90 is the median. It just tells us the range. It just tells us that there is the minimum goat to the maximum goat. All they're telling you is that's 180. That is the only information you know. So it's not B. Exactly 50% of the goats weigh within 180 pounds of each other. But no, that would actually be true if I changed that 50 to what? What percent weigh within 180 pounds of each other? Well, if 180 is the range, that means 100% of the goats weigh within that. So that's not true. So it has to be D. Let's just read to make sure. There is a goat on the farm that weighs 180 pounds more than another goat. Yeah, that's 100% true. If the range is 180, let's pick a random number. Let's say that this is a 400-pound goat. Well, if the range is 180, then that means there's a goat that weighs 220 pounds because that has to be the minimum, and the minimum represents something in our data set, and the maximum represents something in our data set, and those two goats are 180 pounds apart. All right, number 2. Number 2 says, Ray asked 6 of his friends how many movies they watched since school closed. Ray determined the following measures about the number of movies watched by his 6 friends. He found out that the mean was 9, the median was 8, the range was 16. So a little bit more information than what we had in number 1. Okay, so if I make some sort of number line here, I do know that the median was 8. The 3 friends who watched the most movies since school closed was 18, 15, and 12, which means if this is the median, now remember, the median is not always a number in our data set. But what I do know is 12 is, 15 is, and so is 18. Okay, I know these are part of my data set. How many were watched by the other 3? Well, you can do a simple guess and check, but you can also use math to help figure this out. If I know the range is 16, and I know the most watched were 18, well then that means I know the least watched has to be 2. So I can get rid of letter A. If I know the median was 8, and I know I'm going to have 6 numbers, then the median will be the average of these 2 numbers. Well, what plus 12 divided by 2 equals 8? What would you have to add to 12 that when it was divided by 2, it would give you 8? So you can solve this if you want, or I'm sure some of you have that in your head already, following along with me. That equals 16, which means x has to be 4, which means we can get rid of letter B, because I need a 2 and I need a 4. All right, here's the deal. Is the other number a 4 or is the other number a 3? Well, that's where this last bit of information, the mean, comes into play. So I know I have 2, 4, 12, 15, and 18. If I add all those up, if I add up 2, 4, 15, 18, and there was a 12 in there, I get 51. So I have to add something to 51. When I do, I'm going to divide by 6, because that will give me a total of 6, and that's going to have to give me a 9. What divided by 6 gives me 9? Well, we're going to do the opposite. Well, what divided by 6 gives you 9? Well, 9 times 6 is 54. So that means 54 divided by 6 would give me 9, which means x has to be 3, which means it would have to be letter C. Last question. Then we get to probably what you guys thought was the easier side on the back. Data set contains students' test scores. The median is 75, the third quartile is 85, the range is 40. Which of these is most likely true? So here you can kind of like set up a box and whisker plot. You don't know it completely, but you do know some of the information. I do know that the median is 75. I know that the third quartile is 85. I know that the range is 40. So from here to here, that's a difference of 40. Okay. Do I know that the lowest test score is a 45? It could. That could be true. Remember that one box and whisker plot we made, I think it was earlier this week, and it looked like this? And the third quartile and the max were the same number. And if that's true, 85 minus 40 would be 45. So A could possibly be the answer. I definitely want to look at the rest of them. But A could be the answer. It'd be a very rare case. So if there's a better answer, I'm going to go with that. But if there isn't, A could be true. The highest test score is 95. That I definitely don't know. That I don't have any information that would tell me that that is true. About 25% are less than 55. 55 is not even on here, so that doesn't make sense. I don't know if that's true. About 25% are in between 75 and 85. Well, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm definitely going to go with D. A seemed like it could have been true, but it says most likely true. A lot of times in these multiple choice questions, you want to choose the best answer. This is definitely the best answer. You know that that is true, because if 75 is the median and 85 is the third quartile, remember how box and whisker plots are split up. 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25%. So you know it. Definitely letter D. Alright, flipping it over. Here we go, looking at number 4. Answer the question below in reference to, hopefully this read better on your page. That should be over here. It's 120 pennies. So 120 pennies, 125, 128, 128, 130, 131, and so on. How many total pennies are in the stem and leaf lot? Ooh, this is a tough question. Tedious question. You're going to have to count all of those. So kind of like what I was just doing. We have 120 plus 125, 128, 128, 130, 131, 132, 134, 136, 137, 139, 141, 142, 143, 145, 145, 149. Ah, look at this trick I tried to get some of you guys. There is no 150s. 165. There are 2,470 total pennies. List an amount of pennies that is between the minimum, so the minimum is 120, and the maximum is 165. That is not in the 7-leaf plot. No, there's tons. There's 45 different numbers, and there's only 3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18. There's only 19 people in this chart, or 18 people in the chart, so there's 27 different choices. Anything in the 150s would work. So I'm going to say 150. That's not in the stem and leaf plot. 151, 152, 153. If you want to get tricky here, you could say 129, right? There's no 9 here. 129 is not there. What is the median? All right, well, cross one off in the front, one in the back, front. We're in between 136 and 137. Well, the number directly between 136 and 137 is 136.5. All right, last question. Histograms. Use the histogram on the right to answer the questions. Which is the most frequent class? Most frequent would have the highest amount of frequency. That would definitely be this middle chart. That goes with that. That means 41 to 50 minutes. It's the highest bar. How many classes are there? That's easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Most often you don't see histograms with this many classes. It's kind of a waste of a histogram. I mean, more or less. What they wanted to do with this histogram is they wanted to really chunk it down into 10-minute time frames. More frequently, though, you see histograms with 4 to 6 classes. They don't really have 10 classes. What is the class width? Well, you see that it goes from 0 to 10. 10 not being included over there. This is one of those weird histograms where the first column is actually different than the rest. But that's because the number 0 doesn't really make sense. It's going to take them 0 minutes to dispense a drug to someone. That means no time has passed. That doesn't make sense. So it's definitely going to take time. So this is kind of like 1 to 10. And then that way they're all the same. So 1 to 10, 10 is not over here. So this would be one of those where I'm going to take 10 minus 1, get 9, and then add 1 to it. And that's going to give me my class width. You can choose any of these classes to do that with. Say we take the most frequent. 50 minus 41 is 9. Add 1. That's where I get my 10 from. And then if you don't believe me, just count them out on your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's definitely 10 in each class. There were 2 classes that had 3 pharmacies. So if the reason you get that is from reading this title, and that's why titles are important. These, the pharmacy drug dispensing turnaround. So there's 1 pharmacy here, 2 here. There's one of them that has 3. That one has 5, 6, 5, 4, 3. There's the other one. What's the question? What were the 2 classes? So one of them was 21 to 30 minutes. And the other one was 71 to 80 minutes. Hope that makes sense. If you guys have any other questions, definitely want to reach out to me. And we are going to start our, I think we got 4. This is the middle week. After this week, we've only got 3 left. So stick with it. Thanks for tuning in.